so we didn't see much of
Program.
him until 6 years later. You know, he was in the Reserve Army.
He went
So
in
his
early,
war
yeah.
was declared, and you know he's working one day at the Liquor Commission, the next day in his uniform, and goodbye.
Did he serve in the European theater?
Excuse me?
He was in Europe?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. You should say that he it was the First World War, and he was wounded. He was a machine gunner, you know, and you know the Germans, you know, they didn't like machine gunners in the opposite line. You
Yeah.
see, so they watched these guys and they're artillery, and they piled the artillery off, you know, and
Yeah.
so they caught him and
Where was he wounded?
his legs, both legs.
Wow.
In France?
He almost lost one leg, but
Wow.
they recovered, and then he all his life he had steel in his
Wow.
From where he took the
leg.
shrapnel.
Yeah, yeah.
And where was that in action in France?
In France,
In France.
I actually visited the area where he was smitten. You know, we were in
Yes.
France with Christine and her husband.
Yeah.
And we were in the, you know, touring and you know, you can find any spot now, no matter where.
Yes.
Where you piss behind it,
Yeah.
some spot.
So
there
what was McKinnon's regiment then?
Well, in the First World War, it was the Cape Breton Highlanders.
Okay.
Now, but the Second War, you see, so he was in the Reserve Army the Second War, and then when war was declared, you know, the regiment was, that's it. He was locked in, you see, and
With the Highlanders again?
no, he was in Halifax now.
Okay.
You see, I was born in Halifax.
So it was a Halifax regiment then that he was in?
Princess Louise
Princess
Fusiliers.
Louise.
Oh, the Fusiliers, right.
Yeah, and he was a sergeant major. He became a regimental sergeant major,
Wow.
you see, and so we didn't see much of him, you see,
No.
and how did we get on this?
Because I was.
Where you're from, you're a bootlegger.
So your father's
Yeah,
over
bootlegging.
fighting Nazis, and you're left at home
Oh, yeah.
to look after your family, and you decide to take up
My
bootlegging.
dad was born in Brighton, Mass.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
My grandfather, his father, you know, he went down there to find a job, and he became a trolley coach operator.
Is that right?
And
So-
and they were there. Well, they were there for about 10 years, and while they were there,
So did he have like dual
He was born
citizenship? Could you get dual citizenship in those days?
I think he.
You didn't need citizenship.
I think he had dual citizenship.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's great.
And then so then they came back. You see, and he never let us forget that he was born in America. So,
That's funny.
you know, in the States.
Yeah.
And so
Mom.
he's
Hey,
his
Mom.
regiment, and they go overseas.
Mom.
1942.
Mom.
By then, the Americans are in the war.
Yeah.
Pearl Harbor thereafter.
Just wanted to know
You
if she
know,
wanted
we
to
got into
barbecue started
we
up.
got into the war with Japan almost as fast as you guys do. Declared war on it.
Yeah.
As soon as we found out what happened, we declared on it.
Even though
We
you
didn't go
already
to
in
Parliament or anything else, we just declared war.
Yeah, there was a simpatico. Yeah.
No, yeah, don't mess around with our neighbors, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my father was in the war too, but he was young. He was born in 24, so he was really 18. He was, I think he was in from 43 to 45. He was in the MASH unit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a guy named Trump. I know somebody to tell him. What a friend we are.
Yeah. Well, his foot injury, it's been on the left and then it went to the right. What did someone call him? Sergeant Foot Spur or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, with Trump, how Trump got out of the war?
Yeah, it's a shameless draft dodger, not just a draft dodger, a shameless draft dodger. Yeah.
So you should tell Jim about your
Being a bootlegger.
bell hopping job and the boot.
Yeah,
the bell.
I'll do that. So the face is
Oh, sorry.
dead.
Yeah.
So they're in the war, and the Americans are in the war, and so 1943 there was an invasion of Italy. The Allies went into Italy. The invasion was made up of American and Canadian troops. They fought side by side, And the first landing was in Sicily. You know where Sicily is?
Oh yeah, Anzio, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the, they landed there.
Yeah.
And they fought side by side, and they fought well together, and they cleaned that Sicily up
Thank you.
just like that.
Yeah.
You know, they were and
That was Patton, I think, right?
Patton.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Patton's in Europe. Yeah, was he in Italy? Yeah, he was in Italy too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they landed side by side, and the Americans found out that the regimental sergeant major over the Canadian force was an American, and there was nothing they wouldn't do for the Canadians.
Oh, that's
You
right.
want an extra jeep? We got it. You need
Yeah.
more chops? What we got it.
Did your father go up through Italy, you know, Monte Cassino, or was
Yeah.
he in any?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
'Cause that was some very fierce fighting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And he went in. He was up with our regiment when they captured Rome. The Americans and the
Yeah.
Canadians.
He saw some serious fighting.
Now,
Yeah.
he was a guy who was wounded in the First War.
Yeah.
You know.
So was he in his 30s by then, like in World War II?
Oh,
He was
geez, yeah,
40.
he was 40, 46 or 47.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Beginning of the war, he was 40 years old. He was born in 1899.
So he was there for the fall of Rome.
He was in for the fall of Rome.
June 5th, 1944, the day before D-Day, the
Yeah.
fall of Rome.
Really?
Yeah. They announced the fall of Rome,
And then
and then they all said, well, today's as good a day as any, the weather's good enough, let's go. Because they postponed it for several days,
Yeah.
and they went on June 6th, the next day.
Right. My
Saying-
father
They said,
landed
that's a
on
good
June,
omen,
on
Rome
June
is
7th.
falling, let's go.
Mm.
You know, the MASH unit came the next day.
Yeah.
You know.
I was reading this story about
Clean up the
Churchill, and
mess.
Alec, I'll let you finish your story, but I was reading this great story about Churchill and his obsession with the landings at Normandy, and they kept going over and over and over again, the weather and this and historical precedents, etc. And at one point, Churchill stands up and he goes, "Well, damn it! When did William land? When did William do it?" And the whole room fell silent. And he looks around and he goes, well. And someone puts up his hand. Oh, I think it was 1066.
October. now,
And Churchill said, I know it was 1066. Damn it. When in 1066? Class dismissed. And he sent them all out.
did you guys see the finest hour? That was actually
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
what I didn't realize is
Be the darkest hour.
the darkest
Darkest
hour.
Hour.
How much even then he was still dealing with the Chamberlain appeasers. You know that they
Right.
didn't want the Battle of Britain, or it was interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll tell you. So they're in Rome, and the Americans get an audience with the Pope. This group of Americans,
Pius XII.
Right,
Yeah.
Pius XII. And they said, why don't we take the Canadian sergeant major with us? So he was invited to go with them.
So he got
So he met the Pope.
that's amazing. Yeah.
There's a group, maybe a small group that went over.
Now, did your father talk much about the war, or not so much, or
Oh, not that much.
Yeah.
Which was pretty
Well,
typical.
Yeah.
Well, he was through 2 wars, and it was tough on him,
Oh yeah.
and we could see quite a difference in him. We came back.
Two very, very hard wars. Yeah.
Ian, would you mind closing that door?
Sure, Dad.
Thanks. I have a hard time getting over the chair.
You've earned the right to delegate. That's fascinating. That's fascinating. I think that he was already that old and went to serve again. That's impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, he did. And then, and then he stayed with the regiment after the war. And you have to resign, go to the army when you're 62 or something. That's the limit, or whatever it was. And he was finished then. He was an army man, and we were an army family.
Yeah.
In effect, And it's tough to be. See, I was only 9 when he went, almost 16 when he came back.
Yeah, it's,
And I need, you know, a boy needs his dad during that age.
so you're probably right, like,
So
that's a big gap, yeah.
Well, George, would you close the door?
I will. I will. Don't worry. Won't let the flies in.
Thanks, George. And so, now, where are we going from there?
So the
get to
bellhop job and
Oh, the bellhop
and
job.
the bootlegging
Yeah, so
sideline.
my mother is a little farm girl, and this fellow came up, young fellow from here, from Inverness, and his family came up to Halifax during the war. His dad was a shoemaker, but they needed anything and everything to help in the war effort. They gobbled him up, you know, and this boy is, about 14 years old, and he was looking for a job. And you know, there's such a man shortage because all the fellows are male people,
Right.
citizens are joining the services, you see. And you know, industries and businesses were gobbling up anybody and anything, any age. So he went out, and there's an application. They were looking for a bellhop down at the Halifax Hotel. And Halifax Hotel was one of the biggest hotels in Halifax at the time. And he went down and they hired him, you know. And so he and I become pretty good friends. And I said, do you think they'd hire me? And he said, why don't you try? So I told him, I want a job, you know, 12 years old. Nice to have a little job, to have a little money coming in.
Right.
So I could buy some of my own clothes or something or other, you know.
Yeah.
And she didn't know what I was getting into, you know. And so she said, sure, go ahead. So I went down and went in to see the manager. He said, how old are you? I said, I'm 15, you know. He said, you sure? I said, yeah, I'm 15. So he said, okay, this is Friday, you came in on Monday, and you're a bellhop. You know, we'll train you, tell you what to do,
Right.
how to lift suitcases, you know. And so I came in on Monday, and all of the bellhops were older, you know, other than my friend from here. And, you know, many of them were married people. And so I was there for a while. My job was a dirty job. You know, I was doing a lot of cleaning up and all that kind of crap. You know? And
Cleaning up the spittoons, right?
spittoons,
Yeah.
you know what a spittoon is.
Oh, yeah. Everything that nobody else wanted to do, right? You went to the young man, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it was loaded on me, and I didn't mind that. But every once in a while I had an opportunity to pick up a suitcase and take somebody up to the room, you know, and it might be a little tip, and I, you know, and the boys didn't mind that. But there's a situation. Liquor was rationed, you see. The ordinary person, the ordinary citizen, could only get 1 quart of hard liquor per month, and or a case of beer.
Yeah.
You know, it was that.
It's one or the other, yeah.
Yeah, but to get that, you had to have a
Coupon or something,
coupon.
or
You had to
yeah.
have a book of coupons,
Yeah.
and there's so many coupons in the book,
Mhm.
you know, and so I didn't have one of those books, you see. So one night, all the bellhops were off the floor except me, you know. And this Norwegian sea captain came in during the war. We were a seaport, you see. And he came in with a big fat floozy on his arm, you know. Oh God, I was a 12-year-old kid, even I was, ooh. and he checked in and signed in, and then I was, do you mind taking this man up? I said, yes, sir. So I took him up, and he and the lady, you know, and so he said, "Boy, can you give me a quarter rum?" I said, "I must have, he needs a quarter rum." You know, and I said, "I'm not sure, but I'll try, sir. I'll be back. I'll let you know one way or another in a few minutes." There was a waitress there from Antigonish. Her name, I remember to this day, her name was Teresa McDonald. And she was shocked that I was there. She's a young fellow at the bellhop. And she was a waitress, a hotel waitress. Beautiful girl, you know. Classy, very classy dining room. And, you know, she sort of, "Alec, you have a stain in your pants. You shouldn't come in here without a stain in your pants. Alec, your shoes are dirty. Make sure you come in and make this, you know, it seems, there might be a spot in my tie, you know."
Yeah.
Yeah, but she was taking an interest in me.
Right.
See. So I said, maybe she might have some rum, you know. Now, it so happened what the bellhops were doing, in order to get this booze to sell, they got the waitresses and the chambermaids to buy quarter booze, and they'd buy it from them. You see, from them, and so they made a few bucks,
Yeah.
you know, and everything was great all around. It's a great racket, you know.
Yeah.
And so by that time, I knew what was going on, you see. So I said, "Would you have a quarter rum?" "Oh, Alec, you're not getting into that business." I said, "Well, you know, I've got a Norwegian sea captain down there, and there's a friend with him, you know, and he wants a bottle of rum. I just checked him in. Do you have a quarter rum?" "Oh, Alec, you shouldn't be in that business." "But I need, I'm gonna send it on the spot here." She said, "Well, I do have a quarter rum." It cost her $3.50 for a quarter rum in those days. Now you gotta realize,
That was a lot of money.
but you gotta factor in the value,
Mm-hmm.
you know, all the,
Scarcity.
yeah, and,
Yeah.
but it was, so, and what the bellhops used to do is they'd buy it from them, from the girls, for $4, and then they'd get whatever they could get.
Right. The markup. Yeah.
In markup.
So the chambermaids and waitresses were only getting 50 cents a bottle themselves
Yeah,
out of it.
something like
This
that.
kind of a low markup.
Well, that's the way the ball bounces.
Yeah.
This is business. You
Right.
know. So anyway, so I paid her in my tips, quarters and 50-cent pieces. No $10 bills here.
Yeah.
Tips. And so she patted me on the head. "Oh, good boy," you know. And I paid her $4 for that.
And you brought it up to the sea captain.
And so she said, "How much?" I said, $20. Good boy, good boy.
You were an entrepreneur even then.
He gave me the $20 and said, "Oh boy, here's a $5 tip."
So you made out like a bandit.
That's when I became a businessman.
Yes, that's a lot of money back then. Good money now.
Okay.
That's great. I mean,